Hello and welcome to Brewskis and House Keys. My name is Nicole Kostelecki and we are here in the Remax Alliance Old Town office. And we have a special guest today. This is Luke Spaw. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hello, everybody. My name is Luke Spaw. I am Nicole's brother-in-law, actually. She brought me in today to kind of go over some questions that people might have when they're purchasing insurance on their homeowners policy or for their first home, second home, whatever. 10 years in, a little more. So I have some good experience, been through some severe storms. Looks like we might have one of those storms today.
I know, right?
It's not looking too good. But grew up in Arvada. Most people move further away from their high school. I moved closer. So know Arvada through and through, and happy to be here.
Yeah, welcome. So, yeah, this is my brother-in-law. Also my golfing buddy, because Callie doesn't like to golf, so I do.
Yeah, when your wife won't golf with you, you got to find your sister-in-law, I guess. And We've had some fun times lately. She's playing really well. I'm not playing so
Thanks,
well, but we go through those ebb and flows, I guess.
Yeah.
You got a favorite course around here?
I mean, like I said, our Westwoods, grew up kind of over in that area, so like to go over there. If money wasn't an option, Rolling Hills, but we're not all that fortunate, right?
Yeah, that would be so nice. Just some golf tournaments here and there.
Yeah.
If we can get on.
Yeah, and along with we drink more than we golf, I would say.
Yeah,
especially depending on how the round goes.
Drink while we golf.
Yeah, so inviting me to come do something that involved drinking, it wasn't a hard yes.
Yeah, exactly. So this is perfect. Yeah, I guess we can talk about the beers. So we got for today is Spice Trade Brewing. So I don't know if anyone's ever heard of this, but they are actually out of the Yak and Yeti restaurant in Old Town Arvada here, and then they have them at all of their Yak and Yeti locations.
Yeah, I think each location kind of has I think the Arvada location brews a majority of them, but I think they each kind of have their own beer that they brew, like a specialty beer or what have you. Because I think they have 4 locations now.
Gosh, I think they do. They have quite a few.
Yeah.
But I like the one in Arvada because it's in that old house. And actually, when I was over there just a little bit ago, they said it was haunted.
I was going to say, that thing has to be haunted. That's what I was going to say. There's no way.
Yeah, that's...
It's over 100 years old.
Well, they said I was talking to this couple there, and yeah, they said, "Did you know this is haunted?" I didn't know that, but I guess. But that's a cool spot to go and eat Indian food and drink some good beer.
Yeah.
I swear this place is haunted.
Well, I think
it might be.
most places in Arvada. So, backtrack on my story. I used to work. There used to be a little grocery store down here, right on not Grandview, on Old Wadsworth, where the sock store is now.
Yep.
It used to be like a very small grocery store while I worked there. That thing was haunted. Like you'd see, like you'd be closing up at night and you'd just see flashes come because I guess it was like the first doctor's office out here.
Really?
Yeah, and way back when they didn't really have hospitals, people, that thing was creepy.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
I guess there are probably few different places, but
the old schoolhouse, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I mean, like you said, this is over 100 years old. They all got to be. It's in some aspect. I think ghosts are real.
Yeah.
I've been here alone before, and I swear somebody came in the back door, and I was just waiting for them to come up to the front, and I was like, where are they at? So I went back there, swear to God, anticipating to see someone.
Nothing?
I heard someone walk
Footsteps, and it's okay. If you come visit our office, our floors are not quiet. They are creaky, and they are. You can tell when anyone's coming through.
Yeah,
I sound like an elephant.
Across there's like an elephant.
Yeah, that's funny. But yeah, no, they have great beers.
Great food.
And great food. Yeah, if you're looking for some good Indian food, definitely go over there. The one I'm drinking is Little Umbrella. It's a mango passion fruit wheat. Really good wheat ale. And you can definitely taste the fruitiness in it. It is 5.2%. Very light and refreshing, but it has like I suppose because of the passion fruit, a little bit of a sour-esque taste. You know when some of the wheat beers taste like sours?
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of either.
That's all right. That's why I got you that one.
Yeah, I got the Scooter Gang Double Hazy IPA. I mean, it's delicious. It's 7.7%, so I'm going to loosen up for sure.
Yeah. That one's good. It's like fruity. I tried it. And
Yeah, hazy IPAs have kind of been my thing, and Colorado doesn't have any shortage of good hazy IPAs, I don't think. I think we're probably the best state out there when it comes to beers. And the
Yeah.
Scooter Gang's funny. It reminds me like when
Scoot.
Yeah, I think it was Minnesota when we were scooting all around during that wedding, and you guys were yelling Scooter Gang.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. That was fun. Those little scooters. Yeah. Now they're all over. That was when they were still pretty fresh and new.
I think Arvada has them even.
Yeah, probably. The birds, yeah. And that's what they had those at the wedding that Luke was talking about, just like in Minneapolis. And we just were riding them all around like the 2 per scooter. But you have to be careful on those things because I've heard some stories of people really wrecking themselves.
Oh, yeah. I could have. I don't know if I should say, but I don't know if you can get a DUI on those things, but I shouldn't have been operating a motor vehicle.
I think there's a good amount of people that shouldn't be, and they do. So, anyways, like Will. Anywho, all right. Well, why don't we jump in? So, as Luke said, he's an insurance agent and sells insurance, and for our with a contract to buy and sell, one of the dates and deadlines is the property insurance termination deadline. So you have until that time to kind of look at your insurance policy and make sure everything makes sense to you. And if it doesn't, and for some reason it's higher than maybe you thought it would be, then you have the right to terminate at that time. It's also just an important part of owning real estate. Everyone needs it. So thought we'd dive a little deeper and give you guys a little bit better feel for insurance. So Luke, let's just start with the basics. What is property insurance and what does a basic plan cover?
Yeah, so in a nutshell, homeowners insurance covers you for sudden and or accidental events. And that's a big thing because people think, they can get paid to have, or not get paid, but file a claim to have their tree cut down. But that's not sudden and accidental, unless lightning struck it and it falls into your house. So Marshall fires, I know it's a sour subject, but it's kind of a prime example for sudden and accidental. Those came through and caused complete losses to homes. And then
hail damage.
Right. So those are sudden and accidental events. They're nothing that was brewing or things of that nature. So during those, the wind was so bad it knocked my fence over, and minor compared to what some other people went through, but I was able to get my fence replaced minus my deductible, which is something that is becoming more and more common. It used to be $1,000 was standard. Anymore, $2,500 is about the lowest you can go.
For the deductible?
Correct, yeah. Okay. So you're $2,500 out of pocket before you have it fixed. But
is that across the board? Or?
Yeah, most companies, unless you have an old policy, then yeah, any new policy written, the lowest I can personally write and that I've seen is $2,500.
Okay.
Most companies are going percent deductibles, and what that entails is, say you have your home covered for $300,000, a 1% deductible, your deductible is $3,000. So
got it.
Did I say 3,000 or 300,000?
You said 300 and
okay,
then 3.
Cool. I said it right.
Yep. That interesting. So, is there additional things can your clients customize the plans a little bit, to each house, I guess?
Yeah. So a big one, especially these fix and flips that are happening, they're all cosmetic. You see everything on the outside. You're like, oh, this is beautiful. What you don't see are the things underneath. So a lot of these homes have clay piping coming into them, and that clay, it deteriorates over time. Well, you're responsible for that, but your homeowner's insurance covers from, your home. It doesn't cover the things underneath. So you have to have a special extension on your policy, which is sewer line coverage. And that's something that is not standard on policies, and it didn't used to be included in policies, but they've started to happen more and more that insurance kind of gave you that option to put that on a policy now. So
like my house.
Yeah, correct. So when you had the roots go into your piping and your house it was backing up, in the past, you wouldn't have had coverage there. But it's especially, I mean, your house was built in the 1900s. It doesn't matter.
1919.
Yeah.
It's old.
Yeah. So it doesn't matter if you've had it replaced once, because those pipes are coming in and out all over the place. So it's something that I suggest and I usually put on the policy. And if, you get a client that goes line by line and they want to know what that is, I explain it to them. But it's something that is such a necessity in today's market, especially, like I said, the Highlands is such a growing area. All these older houses that are being beautifully rebuilt interiorly, you don't see those issues that are brewing below the surface. And so that's something that I highly suggest. If you don't know if you have it on your policy, certainly talk to your agent, because just to get a backhoe out there, you're looking at $10,000. So you got to really, really make sure you want something like that on your policy.
What about like floodplains? How does that?
Yeah, so everything goes off of FEMA, and they're the ones that created the floodplains. In my opinion, they need to revisit those, because those were created
like the 100 years.
Yeah, when the world was in a different place. So areas that flooded way back when don't necessarily have that risk anymore, and vice versa. There's areas that are flooding that they didn't used to have homes built on them, so they didn't think to classify it as a floodplain. But every home can have some sort of flood insurance on it if they want, and that's much cheaper when you have to get FEMA flood insurance. It's basically the same price as your homeowner's insurance. And again, going through that, they'll just cover usually the basement, which when those boulder floods happened, is that 10 years ago now?
Yeah, we were just talking about this at lunch. It was, I think it was about 10 years.
Yeah, people just got the basic flood insurance. They didn't have any contents covered. So they basically came in, sucked out the water, and you're left with mold. You're left with items that you have to throw away because you just got your simple policy, and people didn't think to cover those other items, because that's just the flood policy. The home's fine, so you can't file a homeowner's insurance claim. You have to file a flood claim, and those are not one and the same.
Not the same. Mm-hmm. Okay. Good to know. So when people do initially get their insurance when they purchase a property, how often do your clients revisit the insurance and kind of look at their policy? Or do you suggest?
Yeah, so with the rising costs of homes in the area, and then the rising natural disaster events, people are seeing a steep increase in their insurance policies. So that's kind of a natural way for them to say, hey, it was $1,000 last year, it's $2,000 this year. Why? So they're not necessarily, they didn't call me and say I built a deck. They just want to know why their policy went from $1,000 to $2,000. And, we don't create these numbers, but insurance isn't a regional, companies aren't regional, they're nationwide.
So it does it automatically every year?
It doesn't revisit it for them, but when they see that price increase, that makes them kind of be like, what's going on here?
Uh-huh.
And then that's when you can kind of, you're like, well,
talk to them about it.
Is your basement finished? If it's not, we can move some coverages around. We can switch some stuff up to try to get you down to that $1,000, make it hurt a little bit less, if you will.
Right. But also keep you covered if you make a good remodel to your house. If you do a bunch of remodeling, you want to let your insurance agent know, right?
Yeah. And say, you had your roof replaced just on your own, and you're like, well, this is showing that a 13-year-old roof when it's only a year old. Well, that's going to give you a much better price having a much newer roof, because things are built a little bit better, a little bit thicker kind of thing. So it just those reasons naturally get people to review their policy. Mm-hmm. Now, if they just kind of went, because when we see those increases, we re-quote everything internally.
Got it.
And if we don't see anything better, we'll send you an email and say, we revisited your quote. There's nothing else out there. And then you'll either get a phone call or you'll get crickets, and just depending on the client.
Yeah.
In a sense. So
I call you a lot for my stuff.
And that's okay. That's people. It's funny.
good.
People always call and they're like, "I'm so sorry." It's like, hey, it's my job.
I don't feel bad.
Are there only two types? Like some that never call and then some that always call?
Yeah.
Or is there anything in the middle?
Yeah. I mean, you have your middle ground clients. Insurance is like one of those things you don't want to think about it until you need it. And that's a lot of times that's when
it's too late.
Yeah, that's your 90% of your clientele, I'd say, and then you have your 10% that really like get you on your toes and have you like thinking like, trying to answer questions that you never thought you'd get. And I'll tell you what, the pandemic, I do a lot of business insurance. The pandemic, I thought was going to open up a world of hurt for me because you don't know that there's an exclusion for pandemics in these policies, but the insurance companies put that in there. Well, the government kind of bailed everybody out with those small business loans. Otherwise, I think that the insurance industry might have went bankrupt because they were going to get flooded with claims, flooded with lawsuits.
Yeah.
Because these businesses were going to, a lot of them still did go out of business, but they needed to try to recuperate some money somewhere. And you have what's called loss of income. That's usually included in a business owner's policy. But it has an exclusion for pandemics, which is crazy that they would have had that exclusion in there.
Yeah, that is, because who would have ever thought?
What was the last one?
Not me.
Spanish flu?
I don't know. It's been I'm glad that's done. So you kind of touched on this a little bit, but so why have insurance rates kind of gone up recently?
Yeah, so that's what I was kind of getting into a little bit. Insurance used to be more regionalized, but then the big companies started buying the little companies. So now insurance is usually, if not nationwide, worldwide. At the end of the day, they're all owned by Lloyd's of London because insurance companies usually don't have the capital to pay everybody back at once. So they have to tap into their insurance to, make sure everybody's getting paid to have their homes rebuilt, redone, what have you. But along with that, like rates in Colorado are affected by the hurricanes in Florida or the flooding in California.
I didn't realize that. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's just like you go anywhere, you see a State Farm commercial, you see a Progressive commercial, so all these companies at the end of the day, they're still like Secura Insurance. They're a regional company. They don't like writing in Colorado. They like writing in Wisconsin. Mm-hmm. So, sure they're regional, but you put in a quote and it's $5,000 and you can write them with Travelers who's nationwide for $2,500 and you're
got it.
Like
so
that.
That's why they've kind of gone up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because every little event, not necessarily little, but if it happens, it's the tornadoes through Texas are going to affect Colorado. The fires in Colorado are going to affect Florida.
Right.
Like they all stem back to each other and they all have to try to recuperate money somewhere. And honestly, insurance companies have been hemorrhaging for years. So they're trying to make up their money somewhere. And it's just a never ending battle of home insurance or, building prices are going up. Homeowners insurance is going up and there's no even point or no break-even point that they've found. But in the same aspect, you have a $500,000 home and you're only paying $2,000 a year to insure it. That's a pretty good deal.
Yeah.
If something sudden, like a Marshall Fire thing happened, you'd want your $500,000 in the blink of an eye. So.
Yeah, good point. And speaking of that, so what happens in the event that you do completely lose your home as far as like coverage goes? Is there a better way to like kind of cover yourself with insurance on that?
So dwelling coverage A is going to be the main structure of your home, and B is going to be your personal property. So we have in all of our systems what's called a replacement cost estimator. You put in the square footage, what square footage of that is finished, so if the basement it's livable area essentially. And they're going to take the knowledge that this database has and say this is what it would cost in Arvada, Colorado to rebuild a 3,000 square foot home in this, market. Mm-hmm. So it spits out a number to me. And then like when you have a contract for a $700,000 home, but my replacement cost estimator comes back at $300,000, you're going, where's the difference at?
Right.
So that's when I have to send you the replacement cost estimator to satisfy the mortgage company, because they're writing a mortgage for $700,000.
Right.
And so you have to show that the value of the home versus the rebuild costs are completely different. And in Colorado, that swing is so great because you have a 900 square foot home in the Highlands that sold for $1 million, but their rebuild is like 200.
That's a good point.
And that that replacement cost estimator has had to get more precise and more in tune with the markets recently, because there's such that fluctuation anymore. But along with that, on policies, you have a replacement cost extension. So if you had, like, the Marshall fires caused numerous home staff to be rebuilt, so the cost of lumber in that area, the cost of construction in that area,
all went up.
Yeah, because there's no contractors to do it. They're all out. They're all doing it. So you can get that. It's another kind of, like I was talking about the sewer line, another extension on your policy, but you can have that set at 125%, 150, or you can just have complete replacement cost, which, no matter what it costs, the insurance company is going to pay it. Okay. And anymore, that's kind of what mortgage companies want to see on the policy, because, like I said, when you have a $700,000 loan and when that fluctuates, they want to know that their asset, because it's their, they're the ones forking over the money, is going to be rebuilt. But if you choose not to have it rebuilt, that's only if you choose to have it rebuilt. Otherwise, they're only going to give you that $300,000 if you just choose the money. If you just choose to take the money and run. Right. Oh, so good point. Yeah, that's only for rebuild purposes.
Okay. You can't just take the money and run.
You can't take the 150%. They're only going to give you, and they're like, it could be written for $300,000. They're going to come and do their assessment, and they're like, it only costs $250. They're not going to just automatically give you that check for $300,000. They're going to say,
you got to show the receipts, and
you got to show. Well, they'll come out and assess and everything like that. But in the same juncture, if they come out and it's worth $350, but you're only covered for $3, they're only going to give you $3.
Right. So it's important to, like, look at that and talk to your agent, to Luke, about see what's best for you and what's best for your plan. Yeah. I guess your house, each person. So cool. So is there any additional services that you provide with Blue Sky?
Yeah, so we're a full service insurance agency, I guess you could say. We do home, auto, commercial, a little bit of life, health we kind of stay out of anymore. It's gotten very complicated. But me personally, like I was stating a little bit earlier, I do a lot of commercial insurance business. So that's your bakeries, your knick-knack stores, what have you. I do a lot of contractors, a lot of trucking, things like that.
Yeah. Nice.
Yep.
Well, awesome. Well, thanks, Luke. Thanks for joining us. Thank you, our listeners, for joining us with Brewskis and Housekeys. And please go ahead and follow us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, all those good things. Thank you to Spice Trade Brewing. And cheers.
Yeah, cheers. Thank you guys for stopping by.